And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Adam Bernstein, internationally recognized psychic medium and trance medium channel, who has studied with some of the best mediums from Lilydale, New York, and the Arthur Findlay College. Adam, thanks for joining me and welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and it's a pleasure.
Well, it's our pleasure to have you. And let's start with, when did you start seeing spirits?
When did I start seeing spirits? Well, let's see, probably, as soon as I was born, but in any event, I just remember being about 4 or 5 and my mom saying, "Oh, you're talking to the people that aren't there again," stuff like that. So so I started to see or sense spirit at an early age, and through socialization, those abilities tend to get suppressed, although I could always forecast the weather, which was weird. By the time I was 8, people I didn't even know would ask me what the weather was going to do. But it really, as far as like developing a mediumship, it really started to happen in the 90s and more so in the 2000s, like in the early 2000s. And as a medium, I don't always see spirits. Sometimes when I see them, they appear as like blue orbs in my mind. And then I get images of them in my mind sometimes. But I just, when I was, I was doing psychic readings since the 80s, but professionally since the early 90s. And more I started to feel the other side. And right around 2000, that's when John Edward, who I was aware of, because I lived in New York City at the time. I was in my early 30s, and I'd hear every now and then, "Have you heard this kid, John Edward? He's 16 years old, and he's phenomenal." So I heard about him, and then he had a special on. So his show Crossing Over with John Edward came after that. When he was describing how he got information, I could relate to practically everything. So I started to get really, really curious whether I could do mediumship also. And then a few things happen. I'd get a few hits. I tell people, I'm not really a medium, but this is what I'm getting. 80% of the time they validated it. But I came to one point where I really wanted to know. This was the spring of 2001. And I was doing tarot readings at a place in New York City in Manhattan called Quest Bookshop of the New York Theosophical Society. And I never had anybody want to talk to the dead. Never. In 4 years of doing that, never. But I really wanted to know. And spirit works in mysterious ways. So a gentleman called the shop, asked if there's anybody that could talk to the dead. The manager asked me if I would take the reading. I said, sure. So I went to the back room. I just closed my eyes and connected to my guide. I didn't know exactly who my guides were, but I just put the intention out that if I meant to do mediumship, give me clear, specific, validatable information. Because I was watching John Edward, he'd get their names, like how they passed, what they looked like, their hobbies. Like, he's a fabulous medium. So I just put that intention out. And the thing is, I didn't really care. So I didn't, I wasn't attaching anything to it and blocking it, basically. So I was just putting the intention. If I can do this, I'll work and study it. And if I can't, if it doesn't work out, fine. I'll just keep doing psychic reading. It didn't matter to me. And I think that's the key. That I wasn't, obsessing about it. So I met the person. I shook his hand, and then I immediately got Father, even before he sat down. Then let me see if I can remember. 4 bits of evidence came in. Father, the number 10. A sharp pain in my chest, the letters REN in an airplane. So I kind of put that out there to him, and then he looked at me and he said, well, my father passed 10 years ago, and he had a freaking long name, like, that began with the letters REN. He was Middle Eastern, so I don't remember what his name was. But he passed from a heart attack 10 years ago, and he was an airplane pilot. But so that was my validation, but it gets even better because I loved mediumship, but I didn't see the value in it yet. There's a lady named Shelley Peck that John Edward credited with being his teacher. And I saw her at the Queen Psychic Club. She got on the orange, he pointed her, you get like the name Michael, describe them, always spot on. But I'm like, if they're dead, they're dead. What does it matter? So anyway, this is where it gets really good. So so I got that information. Then I don't remember exactly what I'm saying, but then I felt like they had a very difficult relationship. So basically, I told them the reason that your father is so hard on you was that in his eyes you were a reflection of himself. And right then he just started to cry. Just started to break down crying. And then I asked me, I've got a grown man in front of me crying. What do I do with that? And, oh, talk about a family picnic or whatever, lighten it up. But at the end of the day, he said for 10 long years he's been holding on to this guilt and pain, and 1 hour with me is able to let it go forever. So basically, I not only learned that I can do this work, but why to do this work. And that's what's really key.
So it sounds like to me that you get symbols within your imagination or your
Yeah.
mind, and you're just interpreting or actually just presenting the symbols and see what the person says.
Yeah, a lot of it is that. So I'll see things, that's clairvoyance. I'll hear things, that's clairaudience. Sometimes I'll get psychic smells like clairguns. That's psychic tasting, clair aliens or aliens or clair olfactory. And then sometimes I'll just feel things. Sometimes it's just the symbols. Sometimes I'll also hear things. Sometimes I'll get names, initials, numbers. I'll feel things in my body. Sometimes like I may be working with somebody coming through, and they like to knit, and I just see my hands just start to do those motions, and sometimes I'll just feel things in my body. So it's always different. And the idea of being a medium, I mean, of course we want to be properly shielded because not everything out there is nice, but yeah, once we're at that point where we feel that connection to spirit or God or source, we're protected. In 25 years, I've never had a negative spirit or bad experience or anything. So that's basically how the information comes. And then, yes, I have to interpret it, and I don't always get the right interpretation. So after that experience, I found a teacher in Lilydale. I studied with other teachers, and basically I learned, give what you get, basically. And if you keep, talking, they'll input more. So if I get something, rather than just saying, well, I feel like this is happening, I'll let my clients know how I'm getting the information, like what I'm seeing or sensing, just in case I'm interpreting it wrong. Spirit's never wrong, but I'm human. So I may not always get it, the interpretation right.
Is there a college in Lilydale like the Arthur Findlay College?
At Lilydale, it's the oldest and largest spiritualist community on the planet, I believe. Of course, spiritualism is an American phenomena, and it's not far from Hydesville, New York, where the Fox sisters who were credited with being founding mediumship, although it really was older than that through the Poughkeepsie Seer, Andrew Jackson Davis, and what was going on in Europe, Brazil, and other areas. So it's not really a college, but it's a community and a spiritualist camp, basically. And there's about 50 some odd mediums on residence that are able to do readings at Lilydale. That they're rigorously tested by the board. There's an assembly there, and then they can do readings. But then when I go, they have a summer season. When I go, because I'm a guest medium and I've been accredited through a spiritualist church, they let me do readings as a guest medium in the public services. And then I've also taught classes there, and I've taken classes. So people go there to experience mediumship, to learn more about it, and other facets of psychic phenomena. A lot of spiritualists also do energy healing too. That's part of the practice as well. So there's healers, there's psychics, there's mediums, and people that just go to get messages or to learn more about it, or to teach. Whereas Arthur Findlay, that's more like a center where you go to specifically learn, basically. And it's in Stansted, England. I've never been there, just to be clear about that, but I've studied with a few of the tutors that have come to the States and done seminars here. I want to go there, but I haven't been yet.
Do you also channel?
Yeah, so mediumship and channeling are akin, and in spiritualist circles, they call channeling trance mediumship. And when I do the channeling work, it's interesting because I'm also big believer of like extraterrestrial, interdimensional consciousness, and just that there's so much out there that we're only aware of just a tiny snippet, this physical world, but there's this whole like quantum field, the realm of spirit, where all time and possibility exists. So when I do my trance work or channeling work, there's this group that I call the master teachers, that which is what a international, an amazing channel and healer named Susie Mazzoli. That was the name that she gave them, and I used to, for years, I sat in on her channeling, and then I started to channel them. And what they do when they come through, they give information about what's going on in the cosmos and in the world, but it's an energy, it's a frequency thing. So as I'm leading the process, the people feel it. And occasionally people have like these gamma experiences where they just feel their crown chakra opening, they're seeing colors and sacred geometry, and it's very healing. But there's messages. It's a little bit different than what I do, like client-based mediumship, because I want to be evidential. Like I don't want to like do a reading and tell somebody, well, your grandma's here, she's holding cookies, and say, I love you. I want to, if I can, I want to get your grandma's name or what she liked to do, or where she traveled to, or how many children she had. Things that to validate that she's not only survived leaving the body, but she's still intelligent. She's still aware of the affairs of the living. She still remembers her life. And that's what's of value. That's what people go to mediums, because they want validation. They want to know that their loved ones see what's going on. And no criticism to anybody. Everybody has their own style, but to me, evidence is king. And if I'm not able to provide the evidence, to me, there's no point in going into the message, because I don't know who I have yet until the evidence lines up, basically.
In your opinion, what are people or beings, since they don't have bodies, doing on the other side?
They're really continuing the spiritual process that they were doing here, and doing it in a different realm or a different way. Like it's very common. Like I've had somebody come through that they died, say, from a heroin overdose or something like that, and after I get the validation, they'll say, well, they're working energetically to help people that have addictions, and in the living. There's a continuity of life thing that goes on, basically. So it's really like a continuation of the spiritual process. Maybe preparing to come into another life, maybe preparing to ascend to a higher level of the spirit world. Like I believe there's different levels of the spirit world. I don't believe in a hell per se. I believe there's just different levels that we go to depending on our energy, what we've accomplished here in the living. There's a karmic aspect to it also. But basically, they're continuing to grow. They're continuing to move closer and closer to becoming one with spirit, God, or source, basically. you know, as much as I'm able to explain, being that I'm not on the other side right now. I can only rely on what I feel and what messages that I get from them.
Do you have to get into a certain state of mind or state of being to make contact, or is contact coming all the time and you have to turn it off?
Well, thankfully for me, it's not coming all the time. Some mediums are different. We're all different, but for me, I have to get ready. Yeah, every now and then I'll get spontaneous messages, but that's the outlier. That's not the norm. So before I work, I'll open my heart. I'll open my chakras. Um, I'll feel my energy. I'll do a little process in my mind called sitting in the power. Like I'll combine heart brain coherence with sitting in the power, which is basically just expanding your light into the fields of energy, the fields of spirit around you. To really try to get open and get out of my ego or out of my personal mind, so that I can receive more clearly from the other side, and then it flows from there, basically. So yeah, I do get I do prepare to that degree, but there are mediums that are just like, for whatever reason, they popped out of the womb talking to dead people and they never lost it. Good examples. Another pretty well known medium named Lisa Williams, who would say I actually met her and talked to her quite a bit at Lilydale, so she goes there also. But she's always like, spirits are always trying to talk to her, so she kind of made this little rule, like when her hat is on, I'm off duty. So she set these intentions, and you can use physical cues to do that. And then when I take the hat off, then you can talk to me. So Yeah, we all have different experiences and work differently with it.
Have you made contact with ETs?
Well, it's really the same thing, just a different intention. So if I want to connect with those on the other side, I'll say my prayers. I'll open and set that intention. Now, if I want to connect with extraterrestrials or interdimensionals or ascended masters for that matter, angels, I'll do similar, but I'll set the intention. And if we can get out of the thinking mind, the dense 3D, and go into the up into the four, or even better yet, the 5D and higher, like even in the fourth dimension, that's the astral where we go when we dream. um and intention moves mountains, basically. I mean, what we intend changes the physical also, but the physical is very dense, but it happens instantaneously. So um so I set that intention, and that kind. But often when I meditate or even just hanging out, I'll feel them around, and that's more like the master teachers that I identify as beings of light, interdimensional beings that have like extraterrestrial beings that have ascended with them, like the Arcturians, Pleiadians, Lyrans, Syrians. List goes on and on. And but it's very similar intentions, similar process, different intentions.
Do we all have psychic abilities?
Yes, we all have psychic abilities, natural human abilities. I really try to debunk this. I really came into this through science. I'm a meteorology major. I'm trained in meteorology. Um, and when I do my psychic forecast, I do that on my YouTube channel, on the Medium channel. Sometimes I'm drawing on both science, what I know, as well as intuition. And I feel like if you can combine science and intuition, then you're going to get some very, clear and profound information. So I forgot your question, but
Since you're saying that we all have
oh,
psychic
question.
abilities,
Yes, yes.
can you give us some tips to unlock them?
Absolutely, yes. So we all have psychic abilities. It's God-given, spirit-given ability. Like any other human talent, some will have more acumen than others, but we all have it. First tip would be to develop a meditation practice. It's our shattering mind that blocks us from the more subtle voice of spirit or intuition. It's our programming, all of this stuff that can get in the way. So meditation is king when it comes to any kind of spiritual or metaphysical work. So develop a meditation practice. It's not easy. It sounds easy. Just tune into your breath, stop thinking, and just sit. No, it's not that easy. And then anybody that's tried to meditate knows that the mind gets in the way. People get anxious. They manifest outside distraction. So that's the first tip. And the other thing is just practice. Like even you could like if you want to develop, like say you being able to read people, just sometimes I'll just go out when I'm in public. I won't say anything. I'll just look at somebody, just get a message in my mind. Be spontaneous also. Learn how to be spontaneous, not to think about things. um like um like for me, learning a little bit about music, like drumming and singing at the same time, really helped, because that breaks down that whole like mental control thing that we have, that we're conditioned. So we have to kind of transcend the intellect, and then we connect more with spirit, and then your psychic abilities will start to surface, and then you can do psychic training, like specific exercises to develop that, to develop the clairs, like the ability to see psychically, to hear psychically, to smell, taste, touch, and to develop clairsentience, or that sense of knowing without knowing how. How your spirit or higher self directly gets information for you. Those would be the first tips, basically. Maybe do some yoga, some breath work, but anything spiritual that's going to open you up and help you to transcend the mundane physical 3D and the internal dialogue. So meditation, and then taking meditation out into the world, that's called presence, or practicing presence. And Eckhart Tolle wrote a 300-page book on how to be present. It's that important, which the masters have been proving, have been telling us all along. Um, And one of the things that I really love about science, and particularly quantum physics, but other branches of science, is they're really validating what the ancient masters have been telling us all along. So through that, it's really helping to open the doors. That's why I like combining the science with the intuition. So yeah, meditation, and then every time when you're out and about, and it comes to your mind, the exercise is just to stop thinking and be aware of your breath, your body, the space around your body, and everything in the present, thinking about nothing, being aware of everything. Just go about your business till something takes you out of that. Then the next time you think about it, do the same thing. And over time, you'll be doing it more, you'll be holding it longer. Of course, it's technically a meditation practice. You don't do when you're driving or whatever, but that's the key. When you're present, um, with your spirit, when you're present in the now moment, the living now, um, then then you're present with spirit, and that's when the magic really begins.
Are dreams important? And if so, do you get messages in yours?
Absolutely. Yeah, when we're dreaming, and there's different levels of dreaming. There's a level of dreaming that's visitation. Those are the ones that feel really, really real. Like when I've had a visitation dreams in the past, sometimes I'm so lucid, I'd just be like, "What are you doing here? I thought you were dead." So that's important. But you can get dreams where you get psychic information. A lot of people get um premonitions through their dreams, and listen to it if it comes. I get that also, and they always come true in some level or another. So yeah, and you can start to develop like conscious dreaming, lucid dreaming, and then you'll get more information. And a good way to do that is every night before bed, just connect with your higher self, with your spirit. Ask to remember dreams, because a lot of people forget their dreams. And then every morning when you wake up, get in the habit of writing down what you remember of dreams, and you start to remember more. And the more you remember, the more your higher self or spirit will give you information through your dreams. It's all intention. Our God, spirit, source, whatever word you want to use, is always wanting to point us in the direction of truth. It's just our job to get out of the way and listen to follow it, really. They try to make it simple. We're the ones that are complicated. Spirit is simple.
Adam, do you practice other things like tarot or remote viewing?
I do both of those. Yes, I do tarot. I got tarot cards right here, as a matter of fact. I love reading tarot. Remote viewing is an amazing practice. The government, trained remote viewers during the Cold War. Oh God, I forgot his name. Joe McMoneagle, I think, that wrote the books. Not long ago, in latter August, I did a remote viewing for 3i Atlas. Also, back before the last election, and honestly, I thought Harris was going to win. So let me just back up a little bit. When after Biden stepped down, that was like from about a year before that. I actually was able to predict when Biden would step down. And then I got an image of her celebrating, so I thought she was going to win. But I was getting increasingly uncomfortable with that prediction. So I think it was like near the end of September. One night I was just in the right space. I decided to go into the future, remote view into the White House into the future. I did that, and I got a clear image of just a second of Donald Trump's profile in the Oval Office. And I was like, oh, blank. And I was like, all right, I'm going to change my prediction now. And then I got more information that he'd get inaugurated on time. When he came in, he would take very swift, decisive, and shocking action, and that he wouldn't be president for his full term. So I got all that information also, which that's been a hard one to fine tune exactly when that might happen. But I kind of see it as an extension of collective consciousness. So it's not like I'm pro-Trump, anti-Trump. I understand there's some relevance in our evolution, and why this needs to happen. It's causing a lot of chaos and upheaval in the world, obviously, and a lot of people are very upset that other people are really in their glory with this administration. So it's really like a very deep divide that develops. But there's a reason. So anyway, yes. Long answer to yes, I remote view.
Well, you are right that the world is pretty chaotic right now. What are you seeing for the end of this year and next year?
All right, well, this is a good question. Well, yeah, chaos really continuing. Now I forecasted around September 21st. I think my timing is going to be off on this. That especially Russia, Ukraine, that they come back to the peace, back to negotiations. That would have to happen quickly. But I think during that lunar cycle, we have a very powerful new moon that's a solar eclipse coming on the 21st of September. It's also UN International Peace Day. It's also an eclipse right on the world axis. So I see a lot of changes in the world, up and down with the economy. Um, I feel like there's going to be a lot of geological activity happening between now and the end of the world. And we have to keep an eye on always California, though. California is not the most geologically active place on the planet, not even by a long shot, but it's very heavily populated. And obviously, they do get big earthquakes there. But off of the northwest coast, even the New Madrid, maybe more into next year around the Mississippi, in that area. So a lot of that increased volcanic activity, more, unfortunately, more people, more attempted assassination. I'll never predict death, even in that, but we'll say attempted assassination, more people stepping down, more pressure against Donald Trump. Health issues, yes, we had seen that, long time ago, and that they would surface during the summer, and it did. But at the same time, that a lot of ex-presidents were very ill, and they maintained, they stayed in office for a good while. So I don't think he's going to just step down immediately. In fact, the latest I was seeing with that could be towards around February, that between mounting pressures, I think more pressure against him and the administration, health declining, stuff like that. But again, timelines are fluid. It's very hard to pin down the timing. But I think other world leaders are stepping down. I feel like there's an increased volatility, more demonstrations around the world and stuff like that, more revolutionary activities. But at the same time, huge scientific breakthroughs. And also with the interstellar object, 3I Atlas. When I remote viewed that, it felt alive to me, like it was some kind of life form. But it could just be that it is an interstellar object, like something we don't understand, that's just billions of years old, that has a lot of energy. But it just felt like an object that was able to transmit and receive information, basically. So, but what's happening with that is that it's got a huge coma. It's like half the diameter of the sun, which is plasma, which is electrically charged. So it's really interfering with or I shouldn't say interfering, but changing the electrical circuitry of the inner solar system, which affects the sun. So, from a scientific perspective, and we just had the Mercury conjunction, and we had a G3 solar storm just last night. I woke up, I felt like I was hit over the head repeatedly, which is why I'm stammering a lot today. But that changes the ionization, that changes the currents within the earth, stuff like that. Long and the short of it, that there's a lot going on with between that between increased solar activity still being a solar maximum, that is really energizing the earth, and it's creating a lot of geological instability. We're really coming into the proverbial storm now. This is the earth changes, and a lot of the old and unsustainable is not going to survive. A lot, not just, I mean, not all of it this year. This is going to be still decades in the making, but this year and the few years that follow, a lot's going to change. A lot with digital currency, a lot with reintroducing gold-backed currency, even in digital currencies and stuff like that. We may have a little bit of a a reset. I don't want to say a crash, but a reset. Even as soon as October, followed by another recovery. So it's all in a lot of fluctuations. I feel like something going on with the royal family. King Charles might step down before too long, also, or forced down. I know that he's had a bout with cancer not that long ago, and that's another thing. I just feel like we're going to hear a lot about public figures having health issues, and a lot of scientific development, a lot with the AI networks being built, as we're being distracted by all this Donald Trump stuff. They're building the networks, and every time, and I love Chat GPT myself, but you go onto a common database, that's probably like every time we go on that Big Brother's watching, basically. So we see more of that surveillance going on, and more people being aware of it, more awakening. So a lot of mass protests and stuff like that. And there's a lot more. I did a full autumn forecast on my YouTube channel that was almost like it was almost 40 minutes long, and I talk really fast to try to get all the information out. But long and the short of it, it's increased volatility, and the old has to fall. It's not fair. It's not sustainable. This is a global awakening that's happening, a conscious revolution. Things will get exposed. I don't think we're ever going to see full exposure of the Epstein client list, by the way. I think enough people are going to know that the more people that know, the more people that will awaken. But people that probably should be brought to justice, and these are high-end politicians, could be president. I'm not going to say definitely. Could be ex-presidents, and one person that I'm not going to name by name right now comes to mind immediately, but my viewers will don't know who I'm talking about. Another high-ranking official. It'll be known on some levels that they were connected to this, but will they be brought to justice, or will this full list be disclosed? I don't think so. I hope I'm wrong about that, because like John Lennon said in one of his songs, all I want is the truth. Please give me some truth. And I think the truth will set us free. So a lot of corruption getting exposed, a lot of mishandling with everything from pandemics, and all down the line. How things were presented, how they were misrepresented, how things could be dealt with in a different way, all that stuff. But it's really, again, it's a time of a lot of knowledge surfacing, a lot of scientific breakthroughs, a lot of knowledge of extraterrestrials, more sightings, more people having actual contacts, more people having telepathic type of connection with them, which is how I connect with them, and more on photos, more on that. And I really feel, I mean, I'll say short of knowing, but I really feel with all my heart that high level officials in this and other countries have known, have been working with and interacting with extraterrestrial intelligences for a very long time. And I think it's step by step disclosures coming. So anyway, that's a few things.
Well, can you pull a tarot card for us and see what that shows?
Oh yeah, let me do that. Yeah, let's see if that spurs on any other information. Um, something that also show me something with like a meteor impact or something, or discovery of a new object. Not nothing that would that would end the world, but new discoveries basically. I think there's going to be watching the Mediterranean for. I don't think a like a global catastrophe, eruption on the Candy Flagré super volcano, or Etna, but watch that air. I think there's going to be more eruptive activity just around the world in general. Uh, but a lot of a lot of peace marches too. So battles are escalating. There's other movements that are countering that. A very revolutionary times. We may see a lot of that in the European Union, with countries pulling out of the union, or wanting to. Even here in the States, I don't think it'll be a revolutionary war or a civil war, but I think we see a lot of that activity. Let me pull. This card comes out. Two cards came out. Two of Cups. Eyes of Cups. I mean, as a just as a message, this could often come when somebody's, getting involved in a romantic situation. But I think what this is saying is that there's going to be collaborations, like different governments getting together that may be surprising, that can have a beneficial outcome. I think this could be relating to, Donald Trump or, traveling and maybe meeting with, maybe Zelensky or Putin or could be Israel, that area. But I think there's more of that and more of like a partnering kind of an energy that's coming up. But I think it's also showing a sense of people being more aware. And there's the Ace of Cups. So, yeah, Jeff, unless you're already happily partnered, you might be meeting someone soon. Maybe it's me.
I'm already happily married, so maybe it's you.
Yeah. That's what I thought you were, but I figured I'd put that out there. Yeah. Um, but aces are new beginnings, and this is all cups. So I think it's a message for us. Yeah, firstly, don't get pulled into all that negative emotional stuff, because that's how we get programmed. It's like we react. Somebody that's say, pro Trump or anti Trump, and somebody from the other side says something, you may get like a survival based emotion like fear or anger and then react to it, but it's a program. So I think it's just telling us go into the heart. Cups is about emotions, it's about the heart. And I teach and practice a technique called heart brain coherence, which I've actually developed into heart brain spirit coherence, where you just really get very present, very meditative. You open your heart, you just feel grateful and compassionate. And if you're able to do that, the heart and the brain blend, because our hearts and brains are connected anyway. And it's through our social conditioning and our socialization that we get severed to these survival based emotions like fear and anger. But I think it's just spiritual way of saying a lot's going to be coming down in the world, but spirit is watching us, and spirit is with us at this time. And just stay in love. Stay in the vibration of love and gratitude. Things have to change. The world is what it is. It's not fair. People are suffering. People are being mistreated all the time. So I think it's a message for us. This is the time to speak compassionate, be in our compassion, to stay in our heart, to stay in our power, to put the prayers out there, to connect with higher vibrational people that are doing spiritual work, connect with conscious community. I think it's also talking about a split in society that's developing, where those that are more on, say, wanting to develop spiritually more on an organic level, on a human level, are kind of pulling away from all the technology and the interfacing with technology and the artificialness of it. So we start to see more and more people going off grid or creating communities. So I think this is the time to really know where you stand, not so much politically, because a lot of that's largely programmed anyway. The same forces control both sides anyways. And the chaos and all the stress that's in the world is very distracting to what the true agendas are. So I think the idea is this is the time to really choose to connect more with spirit and double down on our spiritual work, to stay empowered. We are in the storm, but like all other storms, there's a purpose to it. Without storms, one part of the world will burn up and the other part of the world would just be so cold. Like we need storms, and we need that on an energetic level also. So to align with people like that, be in the vibration of love, start with loving yourself and really practicing gratitude and compassion, sitting with that. Heart Math Institute recommends 10 minutes at a time, 3 times a day. Has all kinds of beneficial physiological effects, including anti-aging, including enhancing the immune system, including connecting more with your higher self and enhancing your intuition. So these are fabulous cards, and it's just saying, stay hopeful. Things are going to happen, but this is a good for our audience today. This is really, really good news.
Do you think that we live in some sort of simulation or matrix? And if so, can we escape it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do believe that now. I've been practicing yoga for many years also, And the ancient Vedics would call it Maya or illusion. And now, more modern teachers are calling it the Matrix. And interestingly, some of the spiritual scientists, I'll use Greg Braden as an example, he tells us that we're not that far away with our technology that we could conceivably create a matrix that people live in. And there's a theory that maybe that we're of the future, or of a different time where we have this technology. So yeah, there's something going on. We're here to learn. I look at it more as a classroom than a prison, but people have their different takes. But when you talk about escaping the matrix, you escape the matrix by mastering it. You don't escape it by escaping it. Like, we're here for a reason. We're here to learn. We're here to grow. So if we have that attitude, like, I've got to get out of here, I have to escape it, you're just creating separation for the reason that you're here in the first place. But if you embrace it, if you learn your lesson, you develop and you grow, then that's when you can leave the matrix, basically. Like, in other words, when you die and get reborn, you don't have to come back. So to me, that's what escaping the matrix really is.
Would mastering the matrix involve mastering the law of attraction?
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's mastering the self and mastering law of attraction. Absolutely, mastering energy. That's part of mastering the matrix. And um, different teachers, but Dolores Cannon comes to mind, because in a lot of her talks she say we are here to master energy, and it's true. And part of mastering energy is understanding that everything's connected. Everything is energy. We're energy. My so-called solid body is really 99.99999% empty space, based on atomic structure, based on high school chemistry. But electrons, the electromagnetic charge of the atom is so powerful that it creates the illusion of being solid. But anyway, that's part of energy also. So when we change our vibration and change our energy, then over time, if it starts on a quantum level, on a subatomic level, that happens instantaneously. And if you keep doing it, if you keep doing your work, it starts to manifest physically. On one level, it changes your mindset. So you show up in the world, like you become more confident and people treat you better. But on another level, you're changing matter from the inside out, and you're changing your reality. So yes, mastery, we are here to master the law of attraction. There's a reason in this classroom, this matrix, why we want to be happy and joyful. It brings us closer to source. So there's a reason why we would want to attract more money, or a soulmate, or the right job, because it brings us more joy, it brings us that higher energy, that higher vibration. So there's a divine order with things. So yes, and yes, again, to law of attraction is an important part of mastering energy.
Are timelines always shifting?
I think so. I think every moment the timelines are shifting. Yeah, which is why it's hard to pin down timelines and psychic forecasts, and why even the best of the best, like Edgar Cayce or Nostradamus, would occasionally get it wrong. Because we can't really, fully predict the future, because it's all happening in the now moment. So if we understand more about the now, then we can project things into the future based on current timelines. So yeah, I believe it's always changing, that all times happening in the now.
If somebody's seeing the future, does that mean that free will doesn't exist?
You know, somebody seeing the future. I mean, I'm a big believer in free will, but I believe in fate also. I mean, in this, nature of timelines, the more grand the event is, the harder it would be to change the trajectory of that. Like, in other words, the wheels could be set into motion, that certain timelines are, we'll say, virtually set. But that's an interesting concept, because certain things are fated. Then there's free will. Like it could be my fate to meet this amazing soulmate, but then it's my free will whether I want to be romantically involved, whether I want to be friends, whether I want to maybe overcome whatever my subconscious shadows are around relationship issues or whatever. So yeah, I think both are relevant, to be honest.
Well, is there anything out there that you are seeing that we need to prepare for?
Okay, so things are changing. There's massive changes going on. in the world. I think we have to prepare for the possibility that supply lines may get interrupted at some point, that the power may go out for an extended period, that the financial institutions may go down. These are all possibilities. And the idea is that the more of us that awaken and that put prayer and positive energy, the more we tend to mitigate the worst case scenarios. So a lot of times, like psychics will see, horrible things that they'll happen, but at a much less severe level. Again, some things the wheels are set in motion, but I think that's the thing to prepare for the most, that there's a split in society coming. There's interruptions that are coming. There's changes in politics. And I think we have to be prepared to have enough food and supply for at least a month, if not a couple of months, just in case, prepare for that disaster that'll never happen. Those that fail to prepare to fail, all of that stuff. And, I think it may not happen in 2025. It may not even happen for a couple of years, but I think there's a period where there's going to be a time where those of us that are more spiritual, or maybe everybody, I mean, there could be time where the world grid goes out, and then that could take a couple of years to rebuild. I feel like Spirit saying, we're watching over you. We're not going to let that happen, because humanity's not meant to go back into being cave people and start over again or anything like that. But things like that are going to happen. The world's changing, and the poles are migrating. So if we have a full-on polar shift, that's going to cause a lot of stuff. That's more likely in the 2030s to 2040s, but we're seeing the polar migration happening faster. We're seeing a lot trending towards world war. We're seeing the magnetic fields weakening, which means more solar activity comes in. Part of that is solar light codes that help us with our ascension and our awakening. But some of that also disrupts, electrical circuitry and the geology and things that are going on in the planet. I think we have to prepare for that, but also to prepare for mass awakening too, and for ascension and our own spiritual growth. So the more we're able to grow individually, the more that's going to feed the collective consciousness, help other people to grow. So, but prepare for that inconvenience, and you'll have supplies, medication, cash, food, the usuals, and things like that. Yeah.
Things have been pretty chaotic for quite a while
They
now.
have, yeah, and it's been building.
Yeah, and does it seem like it's become our new norm?
Yeah, for the foreseeable future, yeah. I mean, it's a transition from the old archaic earth that's built on the weak foundation of greed, power over others, coming into the more sustainable foundation of love and power back to the people and community and stuff like that. So, yeah, there's a big transitions that are happening. So it's not always going to be that way, but the transition from the old earth, and nobody want change. That's part of our survival instinct, is that we resist change, and we do that on a collective level. So we can do this a much easier way than what we're doing it. But yeah, it's like an old tower needs to fall, an old structure needs to fall to rebuild it on a stronger foundation. So during that period of a fall, yeah, it's going to get more chaotic before it gets better. So it's good to prepare for that.
Adam, what is your YouTube channel so people can find out more about what you're publishing?
Okay, well, it's called the Medium Channel, and the byline to it's the spirituality behind the message. So even though I cover mediumship and psychic stuff, I cover a lot of spiritual training that I do to set the foundation for my own mediumship practice. So I have a daily practice that I do different. Yeah, I'm eclectic with my beliefs. So it's called the Medium Channel. And my website is adambetweentheworlds.com. So that's another way to contact me.
Well, before we finish up, can you leave
Yes.
us with a last positive message?
Yeah, well, basically to understand that we are sons and daughters, we are of divine order. that we are going to be okay. This is a transition that's happening in our world. The idea, the more we can stay in our heart and stay in our power and do these practices, the easier the transition is going to be. So you have to understand that things have to be challenging for a reason, but it's a glorious change that's happening. It is that proverbial golden age of enlightenment that we are coming into right now. So everybody hang in there, support each other, you connect with conscious community, and keep doing the good work. And we have the power to ease the transition into higher vibrations on Earth. And yes, I do feel like our extraterrestrial and interdimensional team is working with us, helping us because they're more enlightened. So helping us through this transition from old to new Earth. So it's happening. So call on them and call on your guidance, and stay in your heart and stay in the eye of the storm, and everything's going to be fine in the end of the day.
Adam, thank you for your message, and thank you for being my guest.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. And be well, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.